guys, this has been bothering me for a minute, and I made different videos talking about it, but I'm just gonna tie them together. So I talked about how the situation with the pro-life activist who does interviews with people on their views of abortion. I understand abortion is a touchy subject for a lot of people, but I'm going to explain to people why that is. Abortion is a touchy subject because it's such a serious topic, and there's also so much misinformation. And to be quite honest, the biggest reason that people are upset over abortion debates is because people hold a lot of logical inconsistencies. Pro-choice arguments are very logically inconsistent because they hold contradictory views and then get upset when someone points out their illogical arguments and logical inconsistencies. And the logical inconsistencies in pro-choice arguments creates the cognitive dissonance that makes pro-choicers get angry when you follow their own logic to its conclusion. So the street interview with Brianna Rivers, where she decided to punch Savannah, I don't know her last name, in the face because of the question she asked. You can feel like Savannah twisted her question, and the truth is she didn't twist the question. She followed Brianna's logic to its conclusion, and this is why I point out all the time, stop using foster kids as an argument for abortion. It is a very bad argument to make, because y'all will argue that it's okay to kill a child because they end up in foster care, while also saying it's wrong to kill kids that are already in foster care. And it's like, you don't understand your own illogical consistencies. You cannot say it's wrong to kill kids in foster care, but it's also okay to kill babies who will end up in foster care. It's not a logically consistent argument to have. And when Savannah follows that logic, when you bring up foster kids as a justification for abortion, and someone follows your own logic to its conclusion, and you're upset because you don't understand the own illogical consistencies in your arguments, and the cognitive dissonance that creates when someone uses your own logic against you, because it's a hypocritical argument. It's a hypocritical statement. It's also just a not great argument to make. First of all, you're devaluing the lives of kids in foster care. That's always just the first reason I would never use that as an argument, and the reason that argument irks me. Someone being in foster care doesn't mean their life is less valuable or less meaningful or less important than someone who's not in foster care. You're not better than, you're not more important than. And advocating to kill children in the womb because of their potential to end up in foster care is also still not a great argument. People can't handle their own logic is why they're angry. And it's the cognitive dissonance of not being logically consistent in what you support that makes people angry. And honestly, I would say a lot of people who are pro-choice are angry because they're supporting something they know is wrong, but still trying to justify it. That is why you're angry. And I would say, even without using the foster care argument, a pro-choice logic is very inconsistent. The same people who celebrate when someone has a child because they want it are also the same people saying it's okay for someone to kill the child, and these are equally great things. It's like you're saying both that a child holds value while also claiming it holds no value, and it's a pump of cells. These two things have never been consistent. Pro-choice arguments and pro-choice logic has never been consistent. That is why people get upset when you hold people to their own logical stances. Like, you're upset because someone called out your own logical inconsistencies, and basically is pointing out you're not being objective. Basically, you hold opposing viewpoints on these things. you hold contradicting views, and those contradicting views are why pro-choice people are mad over the argument. And they're saying Savannah provoked her. Savannah didn't provoke her. She followed her logic to its own conclusion, and she couldn't handle that. You can't handle your own argument, your own logic. That's the worst part about it. You're not angry because Savannah provoked her. Savannah didn't twist her words. She literally followed your logic, that logic, to its conclusion. And when you justify abortion because of kids in foster care, the logical conclusion is that you think kids in foster care are better off dead. That's the logical conclusion of making that type of statement. That's why it's a horrible argument to make. And I'm so tired. I'm so tired. It's just like, there's so many people that think, you know, just because they hear this argument being used all the time. And I honestly will say, this is what happens when people are manipulated into justifying something that is evil. You don't justify evil with great arguments. It's manipulative, because people want you to think about, oh, kids in foster care have abused, you know, are abused, you know, that's not a good life for my child, even though the child that's getting aborted is not in foster care, and kids in foster care are not aborted. So it's like, the argument to me is never made sense to begin with, because you're arguing we should kill people who weren't killed to begin with. You're arguing that it's better for someone to be killed than... Again, it's just like, people don't know. This dumb freaking bus. This is why I don't want to be behind you. These people don't know their own logic. And it's the cognitive dissonance, because she pointed it out to her very clearly. If you don't support, she said she doesn't support kids in foster care being killed, right? But she supports babies who might end up in foster care being killed. That is logically inconsistent. Her pointing that out was not her being hateful. Okay. I also think the other cognitive dissonance pro-choice arguments hold are pretending abortion isn't murder while knowing it's murder. It's just like, I'm not laughing over murder. I'm laughing over you're pretending something that you know ends someone else's life isn't ending a life. It doesn't make sense to me. And this is why I've always said I have a huge problem with pro-choice arguments. They're all dumb and illogical to me. They all either devalue someone else's life, pretend that they're all just bad arguments to me. But anyways, I would hate... It's sad, because what I really think is happening is the shift is changing, and I think that people are becoming more and more angry, more and more hateful, more and more wicked. At the same time, there's more and more people that are, you know, coming out of that sort of mentality. So I feel like there's like two things are happening. I feel like the world is getting more evil, you know, the fact that so many people support violence and support Savannah getting punched in the face and the real reason y'all are supporting Brianna because you don't like pro-life, you don't agree with the pro-life opinion or argument. Like, it has nothing to do with that Brianna was actually justified in punching her. Because if I reverse the logic, if I said, well, a pro-choice activist got punched in the face by a pro-lifer, y'all would be rallying behind and calling that pro-lifer violent and evil and discussing all those things. But because the person who did the punching punched someone that you also didn't like and don't agree with, oh, it's okay. It's just hypocritical people at the end of the day. Y'all support violence towards people you don't like, versus just saying it's wrong to be violent towards any human being regardless of their political beliefs, because people are literally they're hypocrites. I don't know. Oh, I do know. Okay, in conclusion, if you hold logical inconsistencies in your own argument, that's not other people's problem. That is your problem. You need to have a better argument to justify your opinion, and not claim that someone's being hateful or provoking you because they're using your own logic against you, or just pointing out your own logical inconsistencies. When people are not logically consistent, they are hypocritical most of the time. And when someone holds inconsistent, contradicting views, they are not happy within themselves either. They know they're hypocrites. That's why people get angry. People get angry because of their own flawed logic in their own arguments. You're not upset because Savannah lied about something. You're upset because she pointed out your contradicting viewpoints and your contradicting beliefs around abortion. That's what makes people angry. And people see my videos and get angry about my arguments all the time. And my arguments are literally I don't argue anything that I can't stand on objectively. I'm logically consistent in believing a child's life matters in the womb regardless of their circumstances. I also don't believe it is a morally great argument to argue that killing a child is the solution to them being abused. I think instead of promoting further abuse, because I feel like there's nothing more abusive than murdering someone, instead of using a form of the most permanent form of abuse to end quote unquote potential future abuse, we should maybe just stop call out the abusers that are creating the victims to begin with. You know, a child in foster care being abused is a victim. They're not the problem. The problem is the people actually abusing them.